Okay, hello guys. What I want to share with us right now is a quick tutorial on how to use the podcast editing software um, that I recommend. It's called Riverside. You should be able to access the link to this on our D2L page. I uploaded a few different options. Perspective of the type of project that you're exploring. Um, so the first one should be Riverside that you see on there. Now, with Riverside, um, of course, it'll ask you to sign in and ask you to make an account. I might recommend when prompted to sign up to choose the option that will allow you to link your Spotify account to your Riverside account. That is, if you have a Spotify account. The reason why I think that this is a good option is because when you finally finish recording and editing your podcast, it will allow you to upload your work directly to your Spotify page, which then will yield a URL and a much simpler way of submitting your final project. That's not going to take up unnecessary space on your computer. Um, and it won't require us to figure out potentially alternative ways of submitting your work if the file is too large to upload on to D2L. Of course, it will still allow you, if you don't want to do this option, you can still just download the MP3 or WAV file and submit your project that way. But I still believe that the easiest way to go about turning in your final project, if it's a podcast, is just to link your Riverside and Spotify accounts and upload it directly to Spotify. That way, as I said, you can just send me the URL. So, regardless of how you want to do it, when you finally sign in, this is going to be your homepage that hosts all your projects. So, you have a planning area. This isn't really necessary for our work. Again, this is for podcasters. So, this is for people that spend their whole lives on this platform. We've got the planner, we've got the recording studio, and then the editing studio. And that's really, where our focus is going to be. So if we click the recording studio, right, this is a place where I can literally go and record my podcast. You have the option of recording your podcast on your phone or recording, through another means. Um, but, you'll want to ensure that whatever way you record it, it's going to produce an audio file that's uploadable. So, for example, I've found that using the voice recorder or the voice memos app on iPhone doesn't always give you a downloadable file. You can access it on your iPhone, but when it comes to like emailing that to somebody, it doesn't always give them like an MP3 file or a WAV file, and it's corrupted, and then, all of a sudden your 10 minutes of recording is lost, which sucks. We don't want that. So I do recommend recording directly from Riverside off your computer. Once again, I'm not expecting that anyone is using a microphone, or I'm not looking for studio quality audio for this project. So whatever you got in terms of a device that can access Riverside, that should suffice for your microphone. So when we get into the space, The recording space, it first asks you a slew of questions, right? It wants to check your mic. So if your, camera and microphone aren't being picked up, it should indicate that. Um, Go ahead and just turn your camera off. And the reason why is because if the camera is on, it's going to want to create a video file on top of your audio file, which simply complicates things. Since the project we're focusing on right here in this tutorial and using Riverside is simply a podcast, podcasts are typically an audio based medium. And when you start getting the video mixed in, it's going to create a much larger file format, in which case I know D2L is not going to allow you to upload that into the assignment area when you turn in this project. So we'd have to figure out, all right, can we send it, via Google Drive? It's probably too big for an email. Should I post this on YouTube? Right? It becomes a little more complicated. Of course, if you do the Spotify method, you could just post the video podcast on Spotify. But really, for everybody, I'm gonna ask you to just turn your camera off because the podcast isn't meant to be a video podcast. It's meant to be the path of least resistance. It's supposed to be, simple. And to keep it simple, to keep it that way, um, we remove the video element. So the first thing you want to do is go to the right-hand side and turn your camera off. Make sure that your microphone is the appropriate one. It should indicate speakers over here. It'll ask you whether or not you're wearing headphones. Um, and make sure that you are in as the host. If you're the producer, you don't have access to all the functionality. The host does. So make sure that next to your name or next to your username, it does say host. And we will enter the recording studio. So this is what it's this is what it looks like. Um, and the cool thing about Riverside is that for those of you interested in recording with a friend or recording with a guest, but don't necessarily have the time to get together physically or you live far away from each other, Riverside allows you to do just that with this functionality over here, right? So to the right-hand side, we see that I can invite a guest either by copying the link or inviting them via email. Um, and then once that person is live on the on air, on stream, you can just simply click the record button and record that conversation, record the podcast that way. So it kind of operates the same way that like a Zoom meeting does, but it does so, to function as a podcast. So for those of you interested in getting, an interviewee or a guest host, co-host, a friend to join you, um, Riverside offers this function, which I think is excellent, and it is the easiest way to go about doing so, right? Rather than having to call them up on the phone and recording that conversation, please don't do that, right? Use Riverside to do your recording, and yeah, that should solve that problem. So you should see that the little thing over here, the echo, or not the echo, but the levels are coming through, indicating that yes, it is working. I'm being recorded. A few other things, right? It has like an echo cancellation thing. If you forgot to turn your camera off, you can do so over here to the right-hand side. A couple of, other features of it. There's a script function, so you can kind of like write out, if you do want to script any part of your project, you can go ahead and do that over here at the top. Some things are behind a paywall, right? You can't do the presentation function or the teleprompter function. That's okay, right? That's not going to prevent you from still putting together a nice podcast. So once you are ready to record, you'll simply go to the record button. Obviously, it'll give you a little countdown. All right. And boom, you can begin recording. And then when you stop, when you're done, a little thing's going to pop up to the left-hand side over here once it's finally uploaded. And it's going to tell me that what I just recorded is now readily available in my editing studio. Okay. Sometimes if it's a longer recording, it will take, uh, a few minutes to upload that. So plan ahead, be patient with it, right? Don't wait to the last minute if this is something that you're worried about, having enough time to upload everything. Then, yeah, be mindful of the fact that sometimes the upload process can be, um, I don't know, no more than a few minutes, but in some class demonstrations, it takes a little bit longer. So it might just depend on your Wi-Fi and your device you're using. But um, at any rate, right, it's entirely up to you whether or not you want to record the entire podcast in one go and then go back in the editing studio and chop some things up and remove, unnecessary, unwanted content, or if you want to break it up into pieces, right, you can do it that way too. Like, okay, I'm going to record my introduction, and then when my friend is ready, I'm going to invite them, send them the link, they'll get on live, and then I'll hit record and we'll do the interview portion, and then I'll finish it up with another, fan interaction section, and then I'll record my final concluding thoughts. Right? You can split it up that way as well and organize it all in the same editing space. So entirely up to you, right? However you want to do it, both should work. But let's now go to the recording or the editing studio. So once this finally loads, it's going to show me all of my projects that I've started. So both my raw recordings, like that, which I just showed you, right? The unedited stuff, as well as my edits too. Those should also be accessible. Right. So the first thing, the only thing it's showing right here is just the recording that I just did. And so if this was my full podcast, I could go in, I could click the little scissors icon that says edit. I can click edit and it'll take me to my recording studio. Um, to demonstrate how this works, I'm going to go to a previously recorded podcast or snippet of a podcast, a purposefully bad podcast, in order to show you all the everything that's offered in the Riverside editing studio. One thing I do want to highlight when it does load over here, uh, a cool part of the Riverside platform is that it transcribes everything that you've said. So if there was a part of, again, let's say you're one of these people who wants to do like the full 10, 15-minute podcast just in one take, just in one go, and then you want to go back and edit stuff later. Well, it's kind of a pain in the butt to go back and be like, oh, I know that there was a point in the podcast where I was just, on delay and I was trying to remember what I wanted to say next. And so I want to take out that long pause between my thoughts. But I don't remember where in the podcast exactly I did that, where I said that. But what this little AI transcribed um, section of the editing studio allows you to do is it shows you, it picks up on, it's very intuitive. It picks up on everything that you've said, and then you can click the part of the project where you said that right here, and it'll take you to that section on the audio file below, which is great, right? I think that's very convenient, and yeah, it just makes that process of editing that much easier, that much um, more user friendly. So I'm gonna play this for us real quick. Again, this is a bad version of a podcast, just to highlight some things that we want to be mindful of when we're recording our podcast and some stuff that we'll want to remove and the process of how to remove that. So I'll go ahead and play this little clip and then we will take it apart. Hello and welcome to another episode of the English 1101 podcast. On today's episode, we're going to be discussing where to submit your final WP1 project. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, you basically have two options. You can either submit the project on Blackboard or you could submit the project on Google Drive. Okay, so it should be hopefully it should be very clear the some of the mistakes that were made with that recording. It should be obvious what I want to remove. So, another cool little intuitive element of the Riverside podcast, right? So here is our audio file, right? And we can see the little waves where it's picking up on sounds and speaking. And it does a pretty good job of indicating using the white highlighted parts, the white highlighted sections of the podcast. What it's trying to pick up on are um, ambient outer noises that aren't simply you speaking, right? A good, crisp, clean podcast should really just be the sound of my voice and then whatever sound effects or music I'm including in it. We don't want to pick up on things like tapping and room noise and people chattering outside. So the sections that are highlighted in white, um, that's Riverside indicating exactly that, right? It's noticing moments where either there's a long gap in between you saying anything that's probably worth removing, or it's some sounds that it's hearing that you shouldn't be including in your podcast that you'll want to remove, right? So the green highlighted stuff, for the most part, right? That's stuff where those are moments where Riverside is noticing you're speaking, and of course, it's picking up on that as well with the transcribed parts of the podcast. Okay. So, how do we then get rid of those moments where we're hearing room noise or tapping or having long pauses, dead air that we want to avoid? Well, like right there at the beginning, right? The testing thing, the tapping the microphone. We want to get rid of that, right? We don't want that in our podcast. So the first thing I can do is, I can either pause it right at the moment that I want um, to kind of chop off that unwanted section of sound. I could pause it, or I can just use my little scroller device to just go to that very specific moment that I want to chop it down. Once I've pinpointed that section, I want to go over here to the split icon and use my split tool. And now it's split it up. It's split this section that I want to remove from the rest of the audio file. Okay. So I'll want to make sure it can click it, right? I'll want to make sure that it's highlighted in purple. And I got two options to get rid of it. I can either hover over till I see the three little dots, the ellipses, and I can click the remove button, or I can simply go click it and hit my trash icon. Boom. Delete. And now it's gone, right? And so now, hello and welcome. Now the podcast is starting at a much cleaner point. When we do this, right, we want to make sure that we're not cutting it off like the start or end of a word, right? So it looks like another section over here. I've got a long gap, and I think I just say on today's episode. Right, so that's a section where I want to remove that. There's just dead air and me kind of just figuring out what I want to say next. So let's split that up. But again, be mindful so as not to like cut off your voice or something, right? If we split this here and go back and split this, and we just remove that section full of dead air, delete, we'll notice episode of the English 1101 podcast. Today's episode, we're going to be discussing. So that was really like a kind of abrupt transition into the next part of me speaking. So I would suggest when you have sections of dead air you're getting rid of, try your best to just leave like a little bit of space. And you can always expand the track right over here on the right-hand side where you can zoom in and find exactly like where you want to place it. But I would place your little scroller where you're going to split things up give yourself a little bit of space, right? We're not trying to get as close as possible to that moment, right? Give us a little bit of breathing room so you're not cutting off any words and you don't have any little uh, abrupt transitions between ideas, right? But now it should sound much cleaner. Podcast. On today's episode, we're going to be discussing much better, right? Could even chop off a little more. But at any rate, right, that's how we want to do that. And so, go through your project, find all those moments where there's just uh, dullness or unnecessary silence, and you want to get rid of all of those moments so that the content you're including really should just be, again, you speaking, and then whatever other production elements you want to add into it, something like music, right? And so, speaking of that, in order to add music, right, we can either go to this down here where it says add music, it's going to add a second audio track below this one, or we can go to the right-hand side where we have, AI producer tracks, music. So we'll click the music icon. And it gives me the option of uploading my own track. So if you do have like a song that you want to include in your podcast, or a snippet of a song, right? Don't include a whole 3-minute song in the whole podcast. But if you want a snippet of a song that you want to use, you can click the upload button, and it will take us right to our folders on our computer. Or if you just want to use the stock music that's offered, that works just as well. Perhaps even better. Maybe a little bit less editing you have to do with this. And so what this will do, right, as we go over here and check out the stock music, right, it has like different sort of vibes that even if you're not doing an educational podcast, right, take a listen to the music offerings, and maybe it's on par with what it is that you want for your music selection. But yeah, go through, see which ones that you sound. There aren't a ton of options, but certainly enough that it should cover the a wide enough range of music options that you should be able to find one that you like. And so let's click something like this, news and politics, right? And so it has music that it considers introduction music, right? Sort of long versions and short versions. It has outro, concluding music as well. It also has transition music, like that, stuff that you would put in between segments if you want to do that, as well as what it calls underscore. Really, you can make underscore out of any of these just by adjusting the volume, which I'll show you how to do here in a moment. But underscore is like for moments of the podcast where, imagine you're telling a story and it's getting to like a particularly like suspenseful part of the story or the climactic moment in the story, and you want to have like some rising music that's playing in the background just to add to the effect, right? That's what underscore is. Just kind of something that a score that plays under your recorded speaking. So let's say we want to add some introduction music, some introductory music, right? So again, I'll use my scroller to go to the part of the podcast where I want to include the music, right? Find the section where you want to put it in. Click Add Music. Let's say we want to use this one, and we put that in. And so what it's going to want to do automatically is play the music right at the start of like where your scroller is, right? And so that might not be exactly where you want it, right? I mean, the way that it's set up right now, it's going to be playing while I'm speaking. And let's say this is my introduction. Let's say I wanted this to just be playing on its own. Well, in order to do that, I have to add like some space, right? I need to add some space to this audio file. Instead of taking stuff out as I've been doing, right? Adding splits, I need to add some space. And so I don't have to go back and like record dead air. I don't have to record just room noise. What I can do, right? I see the plus button over here, as well as every time I have a little section, if I hover over that for long enough, it's going to we'll find that plus button again. And what this allows me to do, of course, it allows me to bring in other edited content, other uploaded recordings. Um, into this, this very space. So for those of you that want to break up your podcast into different sections, choose one space just to edit the whole thing, and then you can go back and upload the other recordings that you've kind of like pieced together and edited already, maybe on their own. But I can also add music like we just did, or I can do what's called an empty section. And so in this case, I want to add an empty section because I just want the music to be playing by itself before I start speaking, or to just start the podcast with the empty section and then maybe have the music kind of, you know, uh, just fade out, right? So we'll add the empty section. And so it looks just like that. It's just another part of that audio track, but there's no sounds or anything. Okay. And to adjust the volume, you'll notice that they always start the volume off very loud. So I typically suggest, hey, let's tone it down a little bit. Let's get down to like 67%. Sure, that works. You can also fade in and fade out the music. Let's say in this case, I want to fade it out a little bit since I'm going to be talking. I'm going to start speaking here at this moment, and let's play it to hear how that sounds. I did this the other day when I was doing this too. I don't know why that's happening. That's kind of annoying, but um, at any rate, I think it's because, yeah. Um, let's try that again. Let's try that one more time. And let's go ahead and let's cut down on that empty section just a tad, just to make it sound decent. Yeah, 399. This is the other thing you can do with like empty sections and stuff. You don't always have to use the split tool, right? You can kind of click the purple button until or click the section you want and then hover over till you see this little um two-way arrow, and then, you can kind of just like push that over until you've got the amount of empty section that you want. So let's try that one more time. It should be sounding a little bit better now. Episode of the English 1101 podcast. So much cleaner, right? Much cleaner. And so we can do that for each of the sections that we want to add music to. Like I said, if in between this section, I want to add some music again as well, some transition music, I can click the plus button, add another empty section or what have you, just add the music if it makes sense to have it kind of playing while you're still speaking. Adjust the audio if it's too loud, right? Add some fade in, fade out if you want to, if that helps. But yeah, right. And so then with this, we'll get rid of that little end section where I was messing around with the papers. And boom, we've got a much better version of our podcast now, right? The ones that it got rid of all that unnecessary stuff. Go to the English 1101. Oh, God. Of course, it's tweaking on me now, even though there's no audio file. Whatever, man. It should work for you guys. I think it's because I've got two things recording at once, the Riverside and the Zoom video working, but you get the idea, right? If it's giving you troubles, then shoot me an email and we'll figure out what's going on. But let's say this is ready to go. Let's say I'm ready to export this. So I will go to the top right part of my page. I will go to export. Um, it'll say video. We're not doing video, right? So that shouldn't even really be an option. But yeah, we'll export the audio only. A quick note about these, right? So it could be WAV or MP3, either one should work. Um, Normalizing audio levels might mess with your adjustment of the music volume, so I wouldn't mess around with this one. Feel free to click the remove background noise, but just to emphasize once again, you want to make sure you're recording in a quiet place, right? Hopefully you find a nice private space without people, in your house messing around talking. Because even though it does offer this remove background noise, um, function that's not going to remove stuff that's you know way too loud, right? That's not going to remove like it's not like a perfect solution to what you can resolve just by simply being in a quiet area. So make sure you are recording in a space that is quiet enough for you to not pick up on any ambient noise. Um, Great. So exporting my audio over here, exporting my edit. I can either keep editing, right? So that's the good thing. Even if oh shit, I find that, I go back later and there's a section I forgot to remove or something else I wanted to edit. I can keep editing in that very same space over here, right? It'll save that automatically. Or if this is all ready to go, I can just go straight to my exports. And eventually, once it takes us there and once it finishes its export, it'll give me my options for downloading the content. So it'll tell me when it's ready, your export is ready. Um, this is still the recording, but if it's my edit, right, it should be this one over here. It should tell me this is the exported one, right? And so let's click it. Let's do this, right? So it gives me some options, right? I can download it, right? I can share it. Let's click download. We do that, right? It creates a WAV file and you can test it out to make sure it works using your QuickTime player or Flash Media player, what have you. Um, the other thing when I click it, um, just to show you guys real quick. Um, Here's what I was talking about with Spotify, right? So when I click my exported audio, of course I can go back and I can download it, right? There's that again. But here's the publish on Spotify option, right? So if I click this, right, it'll take me, I should already be signed into my Spotify page, but it'll take me to my linked Spotify account. Um, let's see if it'll take me there. Okay, and the Spotify page looks like this, and so I can go through, give a title to it, give a description for it. If you have cover art, right, a logo you designed or something like that, you can add that to it, right? And yeah, basically all these little settings that you can mess around with. But you'll click next, you'll click publish on the next page, and boom, you've published your episode. And then you can just go to the URL, copy and paste that and send that to me via email or D2L or include that on your reflection document for WP1. But that I still think is the easiest way to go about sending it rather than downloading the file and then trying to upload the file to D2L. But whatever works for you, no pressure. You don't have to do it. If you don't have a Spotify account, then don't feel obligated to make a Spotify account. So that's Riverside. Feel free to shoot me an email if you have questions about this. If it's giving you any issues at all, then let's talk about it. But yeah, happy recording, happy editing. Let me know how things are going.